Hi everyone, welcome to our October information webinar for Coder Academy. If you are interested in Coder Academy's web development bootcamp and you're pretty keen to have a look at what we've got coming up in October, you are in the right place. We welcome you. Thanks for, sharing your lunchtime with us. We invite you in this session to ask any questions that you would like to ask in our live chat. And yes, what we would love for you to do before we actually, we wait for a few people to arrive. Why don't you tell us in the live chat, which is the bubble that says chat, type in there where you're actually joining us from today. I am joining you from very blustery, nasty weather, Sydney at the moment. It's gross outside. Is anyone else joining us from Sydney, or are you from somewhere further afield? We usually have a lot of people joining us from Melbourne, from Brisbane, but our course extends, of course, to all over Australia. So welcome. Oh, someone's from the Gold Coast. That's cool. Welcome. Who else we got? Another Sydney sider. Lovely to see you here, guys. Thank you for joining us. Today in our session, excuse me. Oh, someone from Perth. Great. Thank you for joining us. It's morning time in Perth, I believe. In our session today, we're going to be joined by our partnerships coordinator, Steven Hiotis, and I'll introduce him better in a mere moment. But yeah, our focus is going to be on showing you what you can expect in a Coder bootcamp, and also a big focus on our industry placements, which are a golden ticket as far as this course is concerned. It's such a great opportunity and one that we hope that you guys would move forward with once you actually start the course. Okay, now we've got a few people here. I'm going to actually start our presentation for today. My name is Lee, by the way. I don't think I introduced myself, and I'm an enrollment advisor at Coder Academy. I'm joined here today by a couple of my colleagues who I will introduce in a mere moment after I do our acknowledgement of country. So we welcome you in the spirit of reconciliation. Coder Academy acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present, and we extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. And I join you from Gadigal land here in Sydney. Who are we? Okay, this is where you get to meet my closest colleague, though we work remotely and we've never met in the same room. This is Dallas. Dallas joins you from Brisbane. How's the weather there today?
Magical.
Of course it is, yes. We hate to hear this, Sydney. Dallas, can you just take us through quickly the housekeeping for the live chat before we get started?
Definitely. Cheers, Lee. So once again, my name's Dallas. I'm one of the enrollment advisors here at Coder Academy as well. So we're happy to answer any questions you have. Please go ahead and throw them into the chat. Lee asked you to open the chat window moments ago. What you might see is down where you type a section that says to, and it might say to hosts and panelists currently. If you could do me a favor and change it to everyone. That way everyone can see the question and everyone can see the answers. Please go ahead and throw them in there as we're going through. We'll do our best to sort of answer as we're going. Any lengthier questions, happy to answer them at the end in the Q&A section. Other than that, back to you, Lee.
Oh, thanks, Dallas. Okay, so you guys will see Dallas in the live chat. Please don't hesitate to post your burning questions in there, and he'll be collecting those for us to get answered at the end of the session. Okay, I'm going to welcome Steven onto our screen. He is our partnerships coordinator at Coder Academy. Hi, Steven.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Lee. And thanks everyone for joining as well. It's lovely to meet you all. I've been with Coder now for about almost 2 years. In that time, I've placed around probably a bit over 150 graduates now across Australia. I'm based in Sydney, so if you're in Sydney, I'd love to catch up with you guys. I work with partners all over Australia. We've got some partners in Adelaide, down south in Geelong and Melbourne, up in the Gold Coast and in Brisbane, and obviously right here in Sydney. And we've even got some partners in Newcastle now. Now onto the sharing the involvement part that the partnerships team has in your study journey. As part of your experience at Coder, you'll find we frequently host industry talks. I think we're at about 13 to 14 a year now, which is great. So it's where industry professionals come in and share their experiences and their story and give you valuable insights. Most recently, just on Tuesday, actually, we had Katie Wilson from Mantel Group. She spoke on how to balance self-learning and workplace learning and guided students on how to find a mentor, which is really helpful when you're moving into a new industry, which is a big part of what Coda can provide. We host resume writing workshops, how to build your LinkedIn profile, and then we've also, with our partners, we host different industry events. They happen across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, virtually. There's always engagement opportunities. And essentially, the engagement is there to help guide you on the study journey, so that you're confident in your chosen career path and you're ready to work in the industry from day one of finishing your degree. So the other added benefit of this is that it helps you with your placement, because placements offer you the opportunity to test the waters essentially. It's an excellent way to know your specialty if you're focusing on something you want to find enjoyable, and it's an environment where you can find new mentors and advice from those who've been in the industry. The placement process is quite simple. It's designed to help you understand your career specialty and better match you with an industry role that works for you. So here's what you can sort of expect of this, the next slide, Lee, if you could pop it over. So you'll complete your About Me survey, and that gives us the chance to reflect on, it gives you the chance to reflect on yourself and your goals. It's where you'll share your resume, which we would have already helped you with through the workshops, and also the talks throughout your study journey. And it's an opportunity for you to get feedback on your resume and make sure that it is career ready and you're ready to already start applying from the moment that you've got that done. We then take your profile and we match you with industry partners. So this is where that preference really comes in handy, because depending on that, whether or not you go down the front end path, back end, maybe you've got a passion for UI and UX, or you're trying to blend a bunch of those focuses, will then determine what roles and opportunities are most suitable for you. And as well, to touch on that, we've got partners who like face-to-face. They like hybrid learning, where maybe you do a day in the office, a day from home, or if you're based in, for example, you're based in Perth, we do quite a lot of remote internships now and placements, because that's the benefit, one of the benefits that came out of COVID. And then, so if your profile is selected, you've got the chance then to interview and potentially be selected for a placement. Placements are generally finalized within about 2 months of you finishing your degree. So keep that in mind. They're a great way to get your feet wet, basically, and to explore working environments, and so that you can start your career nice and strongly. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you all throughout your study journey and wish you all the best in your chosen developer path. It is quite an exciting career, because you can work across so many industries. We've got like our partner in Adelaide, for example, they work in space exploration. One of our strongest partners here in Sydney, they do medical research. We've got fintech partners and pretty much everything in between. It's a huge space, and you get quite creative with the direction you're going in. And you can work for small teams who are quite agile. You can work on big teams. There's so much out there. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'll hand it back to you, Lee, and join you back for the FAQs and the Q&A section.
Thank you so much, Steven. So yeah, that was just a little bit of a summary of what that industry placement journey looks like, and really just to show you that it is a journey that you go on, and that you actually are going to have a relationship with our partnerships team right from the very start until the end there. Okay, so I'm going to get started on chatting to you a bit now about what our course is actually about in the lead up to the final part, which is the industry placement. Okay, let's start with this. If you haven't coded before and you're like, oh my gosh, do I need any previous experience? We actually don't require you to have coded before. We would like you to know that you're interested in learning, that you're passionate about learning. Probably you like logic and you like solving puzzles, but essentially we teach you everything from the ground up, starting here, really. So what is coding? It's the language that we use to tell computers what to do, essentially. So it's a set of instructions, and these instructions can be used to make websites, and they can be used to make apps, as well as process data. And types of different coders include the following: software engineers, programmers, web developers, front end and back end developers, more on that in a moment, and full stack developers. Front end versus back end, a lot of jargon that you hear around web development will include these words. Front end and back end are two different areas that you can work in with coding. Front end on the left there, that's Coder Academy's lovely retro website. Front end looks at making the aesthetic of everything look beautiful, okay? So you're working there really with like graphics and the image of the website, the client side. If you look to the right, that's back end. Back end is like, you know, the puppetry that makes everything move. It's the systems and it's the gestures behind everything. So as you move through your bootcamp, you're going to probably have a leaning towards one of these. Maybe you're great at both of them, which is fantastic. When we talk about full stack, we're looking at all of it together, okay? So coding languages that you will learn with us include HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. To look at it as if these languages formed a human body, your HTML would form your skeleton. That's the structure. The CSS would make up the dressings, the clothing, the glasses, you know, the rings, and all of the things that you put on top of the skeleton. And the JavaScript would work to make your muscles, your hands, your body actually move. If you look at a website in regards to, you know, an analogy of a human body, this is kind of how it works. It helps me as a visual learner to understand that that's how it would all fit together. It may not be an analogy that works for you, but I find it is quite, it is quite helpful to understand how those languages actually function. The tools and technology that you will need to do the course, you will need a web browser, an internet connection, you'll need a coding editor, and you will need a source code hosting platform. So they're the things that you'll need. We don't require you to go out and buy the most expensive machine available. Later on, Dallas might put specifications for your machine into the live chat. But yeah, they're very sort of very achievable specs. You're not going to be looking at getting anything crazy high powered. So yeah, your machine, you could probably do the course easily with a machine that's 4 years old or so. Okay, who employs a full stack web developer? Well, you can get jobs in IT companies, which would be no surprise at all there. Retail is a really big area. So especially, you know, since the pandemic, a lot of companies were, you know, were forced really, I guess, their hand was forced in moving their business much more into the online space rather than the, you know, face-to-face physical arena. This remains to be a huge area for jobs, for, you know, for developers, is working on, you know, the online kind of aspect of retail. Yeah, it's massive. You could work for a financial institution. You could be working for a bank, say, and working on, you know, helping people to more easily access superannuation, things like this, like ATMs, yeah, lots of things like this. And digital agencies are another one where you could be working. They provide solutions, web-based solutions for a whole range, a whole field, you know, a whole lot of different fields, I should say, of employment, like many different areas. So this is where you could work pretty much anywhere really when you look at it and think about it. The average salary for a full stack web developer stands at 120K. You know, as you move out of your boot camp, that's not what you will be earning straight away, but it is what you could be earning really not very long after you leave us. So there is a lot of upward mobility. You can reach this salary in a few years' time. We do know that that happens. We have had feedback like that from our grads. And then, of course, it depends on like what types of companies you're working for, their capacity, how large they are, etc. There is job growth, 30% job growth within the next 5 years. And these remain to be really in-demand skills, guys. So yeah, you are, you're coming on board potentially with a boot camp at the right time. Our boot camp is ideal for everyone. No, look, what we do see is we see the majority of the people that join us are people who want to change careers. That's the majority. That doesn't mean we don't get people who are looking to upskill. It doesn't mean that we don't get people who are coming out of high school and want to join us. But career changes make up the majority of our group. What that means is if you yourself in our live chat today are a career changer, it means that you can expect to be in a virtual room with people who have got really diverse professional backgrounds, so different to what you do, maybe also have never coded before. We get people coming to us from health backgrounds, from hospitality, from retail, from law, from medicine, crazy, like just, yeah, lots of different places to come and decide that they want a career change and moving into IT. Okay, our next boot camp and our final boot camp for 2024, if you wish to jump on this and act on this before we move into a new year, well, we start on the 14th of October, so around 1 month from now. The course goes for 10 months. At the end of the course, then there is the industry placement period. Most industry placements are a 4-week block, and that generally happens either the week or a fortnight after the completion of your course, if you've opted for that and are eligible for that, and we can talk more about that a little later. We are a 100% virtual classroom. That's where our delivery happens. Our timetable is Tuesday and Thursday evenings from 7 till 9 p.m. and then a Saturday morning from 9 till 1:30. So 8 hours of the week where we need you to be in a place at a time with us, and the rest of the time, those facilitated self-study hours, 13 to 20 of them, you can fit them wherever they fit best in your week. You decide. That's totally fine. One thing to remember, if you get all of your work done on like a Sunday, then that's probably the only time in the week where you wouldn't receive a really fast answer to your questions. That's just because that's the only day that we don't have coder support staff working. And I'll show you that in a timetable in a moment. Our coder support hubs are located in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. Qualification that you receive is a higher education diploma of web development. Important to note that this includes a lot of different skills. There is a lot included. It is not only web development that you will do. There's an awful lot that you will cover in this course. It's a fantastic foundation for moving off and into other arenas of IT as well. It is $22,250 and fee help loans are available for Australian citizens. Okay, this is how it looks in a timetable, in a graphic. So in the yellow there, academic support is available on campus via our student hubs or by appointment in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and online via Discord, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So what that means is, guys, you have full support Monday to Saturday, 9 to 5 online. You're going to have channels and sub-channels, which are for, each of your subjects and then projects. If you get stuck, you can put your question or query into those channels and get an answer very, very quickly. We find in most cases that this level of support and the very fast turnaround times on answers from our academic staff is enough for students. A lot of students most students never visit one of our Coder student hubs. We have lonely teachers sitting in their hub waiting for people to come and talk to them. No, they do get people coming to chat with them physically, face to face, when there may be something that they really just don't grasp, or they want to have a chat about a change in their circumstances around taking the course, and they have some questions that they just want to cover but not online. They want to do it face to face. So this is how the timetable looks essentially. All of those classes, by the way, are recorded, so you can view them again and again on your learning archive, okay? The bootcamp breakdown as it stands now is that we offer 2 terms. So they're 2 big terms which have a break in the middle of each term. In the first term, you'll be learning HTML and CSS, Python programming. You'll be building a terminal application, and you'll also move into Python with Flask as the framework. Term 2, you'll start learning JavaScript. You'll learn about deployment, about React, and you'll build a full stack web application for a client, which is really exciting. You'll also dive into DevOps fundamentals. You'll learn how to use Docker, and you'll learn about containerization, which we find very exciting. It's a recent addition to our course that we're super proud of. And it's just something that has been needed for a long time, and now we've got it. We're just so happy to have it. And there's also a section on AWS usage. Then you move into your optional industry placement. And once you've done that, you are a junior full stack web developer and ready to move into tech with a very, very solid foundation of languages, which will be, provide you with a stepping stone off to learn any other language that is required of you. Our graduates are working at these places. This is not the only places they're working. This is a selection of places where we know that they're working. Of course, we can't have full visibility as to where they've all disappeared off to, but this is where we absolutely know we've got students working. Pretty great. A lot of these are highly recognizable. Some of them you might have just sort of heard of, or their logo looks a little bit like you can recognize it, but you're not quite sure what they are. So they vary in size and capacity, of course. Now, what do our students, quite recent ones, say about our course? This girl, amazing, went from being a cheerleader to being a web developer. See, this is what I was saying to you about diverse backgrounds. So she had a complete career flip, right? She went from, flipping her body to flipping her career into tech. Isn't that crazy? So one of her favorite things about studying with us is that she found herself in an interactive and connected environment. Now, we're really proud that we can make people feel that they can interact and connect easily in our online, learning location, because sometimes we hear that students have had a tough time of that. We are really good at this. We're really proud of the fact that we're good at this. Students do feel connected to their educator, to the course, to the content, and also to their peers. Okay, Christopher Baker came from retail sales, and now he's working as a software developer at Entain. Massive shift there as well, right? So any experience that you've got in your current career, you bring that with you. That wasn't a waste of time. Everything you've learned up to this point was all for the purpose of going into helping you to be better at coding and using that experience once again, once you're actually in tech. So having good customer service skills can only benefit you. Absolutely. He found, as I mentioned before, that we provided a very solid foundation to move into industry. Yeah. Reese Morton. So Reese came from a hospitality industry. He is working for one of our industry partners called Cognis. Stephen's popped back on because Stephen knows I'm about to ask him about Reese.
I'm glad this was Reese. Reese is a recent placement with us from a year ago, and he did actually quite a long placement. He did a 12-week placement, but then that turned into him now working there. I believe about 15 months. He's been promoted, and he's actually leading a lot of interviews for their next placement round, which is happening right now. It's quite cool to see. And the same as Agini, she's had crazy amounts of development happening. She's just been promoted into a new role. It's looking quite good for them all.
That is so cool.
A recent Reese placement, yeah. So down at Surrey Hills.
And it's so cool that Reese has kind of gone from the one being placed to the one doing the placing, really. Like, that's
because
amazing.
it comes down to a lot of the people skills. It's amazing. So like you said, past careers, it all transfers over. I'll hand it back to you.
Nice. Thanks, Steven. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Reese has done super well for himself. I think, to be honest, the thing that these people have in common, coming from these backgrounds and then moving into tech, they're like going, okay, I'm just going to unlearn anything that I know, and I'm a blank slate, and I'm going to learn this from scratch. I'm going to be open to learning opportunities, and I'm going to say yes, and I'm just going to dive in. Yeah. And they've all kind of done that. And then that's where the growth occurs. And there's so much room for growth in this industry. Now, if you're looking at doing our course and you'd like to try for one of our scholarships, we do offer one scholarship per intake. Our next one for the October 14th intake, applications will close on the 30th of September. If you're interested, and you are successful, it is 50% of your course fees taken care of by us. It's open to all domestic students. You can apply for it if you're on PR, that's fine. Or if you're an Australian citizen, of course, no worries. More information can be found on our website. You'll find an information sheet on there. But essentially, as the name would suggest, what we're asking you to do is to stake your case for what makes you a diverse person in tech and a diverse person in our course, really. What is different about you? And there are so many different ways that you could answer that. You could talk about adversity that you've been through. You could talk about gender. You could talk about that your background has been particularly interesting. Like, what is it that makes you different? And stake your case for that. Give good examples. And yeah, cross your fingers and hope that you're the winner. Okay. If you put in a good application, you just might be. But if you don't put in an application, then you don't have a chance. So my advice is, if this seems interesting to you, then go for it. Men and women included. Okay. Our application process is really 3 steps. You apply. Dallas will probably put the link to apply into the live chat at some point. The application process is pretty easy. So you fill in a 1-page application form, and then we see it. You get sent a letter of offer. You either pay or sign an ECAF, depending on whether you're paying with fee help or you're doing monthly installments, and then you start class. So really, our process, if you're interested in enrolling, you can be fully enrolled in a morning. It's not hard at all. If you're not quite sure that you're ready for this, feel free to call us. That's what we're here for. We'll talk you through it. Our next information session, should you have absolutely enjoyed and loved this one, not that we're finished yet, but we'll be running another one on the 2nd of October. That one's an evening one from 6 o'clock. That one, you will just see Dallas and I. We are going to be providing you with more details on what is to come for Coder Academy. So if you're interested, do join us. We love having you back. This is us. There we are. That's our avatars. They're our contact details. Feel free to call us for a chat. We love that. Everyone's circumstances are different. We understand that. We are not going to suggest that you do the course if your circumstances point towards you not having enough time to take this on. So that's the honest truth of it. It's one of our main considerations. Questions. So this is where I'm going to invite Dallas and Steven back on screen. We're going to go through some questions from the live chat, and also questions that we just, we are burning to ask Steven about industry placements. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. How was it on the live chat?
It was good. There was a lot of questions. Yeah, there was a lot of questions. I answered most of them as I went. you know, and tried to get some dumb jokes like recent placement in as often as possible. But, you know, there's only so
Mm,
much time. There's only so much time.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, everyone.
Um,
Dallas loves to try and do the jokes.
do the jokes.
Yeah, he does
We
the
did have
joke.
one particular question. I think we'll get that one out of the way because everyone's dying to hear the answer. So Manuka asks, he says, I'm concerned about the impact of AI on JavaScript roles, as many have been reduced. How much focus does Coder Academy place on AI? And if these roles are being reduced, how should an entry-level software engineer build their career? I'm looking for a mid-career change, and this concerns me the most.
Okay. Did you want
Yeah.
to answer some of that, Dallas?
Yeah, I can throw some stuff in. So basically, as far as AI goes, I will say straight away, that it's obviously blowing up a lot in the media right now. Okay. So everyone's got this idea of what AI is and how it's taking everyone's job and no one's getting employed anymore because everyone's using AI. Okay. That's not how AI works. A lot of people, there's a lot of articles out there saying that, you know, AI is the devil. And there's also a lot of articles out there that it's saying that AI is actually helping us too. So what we'll find these days is there are a lot of junior devs and junior full stack developers that are still getting employed, but also they're using AI to their advantage as well. So there's a lot of companies, you know, that are already using AI. When it comes down to it, an AI cannot replace a developer at this point. We're not there yet, guys. Okay. Basically, you can get an AI to help you create code, but then, you know, juniors and even senior developers are still going in and adjusting code to make it work properly. Because when it comes down to it, AI is not a human brain. Okay. And that's pretty much the bottom line. We're not there yet. But that's pretty much what it comes down to. Educators, you know, in our boot camps, we are discussing AI very openly and talking about things that the reasons, you know, why, you know, it's a tool to be used. So we encourage developers to use it and go into jobs, you know, ready to use that tool. But it's not taking anyone's jobs just yet. Yeah, that's pretty much what to say.
Oh,
Anyone else have anything to say?
I'll add a couple more things to it because I think
Yeah.
from the partner side, what I notice is um, it's becoming less about your technical skills, funny enough, and it's becoming more about your personal skills and your people ability. And with a lot of the companies we work with, you know, I lose track of it these days, but I think it's about like 350, a bit more than 350 these days. Everyone that we've spoken to has utilized some form of AI now, because it's a tool to actually speed up the process, but you've got to actually start with the process. And that's the thing that I've noticed is like the creativity that comes with, you know, user interface, the creativity that comes with all of the design elements, like the idea behind all the workflows in the back end, that all still comes from the creativity of the human mind. But it's funny how much faster you're able to do it. So that's where I guess like not learning enough foundations has helped a lot of people out, and that's where like doing a lot of these short courses as well on the side really gets you going. Yeah, it's something that it's really not. It's funny, it's not an issue.
Yeah, I would probably add to that just one thing. As we've heard over the last 12 months from graduates who've moved into industry, they sort of concur that it's a great tool to use. However, it's a tool that they use to increase efficiency and take, you know, like to better use the hours in their day, essentially. So they use it to produce code which is easy and just time consuming that they use all the time. So they use the AI for that, but all the high end kind of thinking they do for themselves. And yeah, that's basically the feedback that we've had. Other feedback has included as well advice to you guys as potential coder students to please do not use AI while you're doing the course. Focus on understanding all of the nitty gritty of coding and use it as a tool once you're comfortable with the languages. So there's a few more pieces that I could chuck in.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, for sure. I think it's like if you've heard of stuff like agile practices when it comes to like development, okay, so that's a pretty big thing. But when it first came about, everyone was like, what is this? Like, you know, black magic, because that was pretty much a way of sort of streamlining like project management and the way you can get ideas across and, you know, leave things on the cutting room floor as fast as possible. AI is just an extra tool that's going to help with the same sort of stuff as well. So it's not taking over. It's just needs to be used properly. Yeah.
Thanks, Dallas. Stephen, some questions for you now. What can students anticipate during their industry placement, and what is the duration of these placements typically?
Yeah, so typically we do around 4 to 10 week placements, and this range is there because sometimes it can be quite intense. You know, it might be an opportunity where it's like a 4 week full time. It can be even like 2 days a week. It always happens Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You know, no one's going to be doing evenings or weekend placements. But you know, in terms of what you can expect, I think that's where when we understand like what your preferences are, what direction you go in. So for example, just recently with Ant61, so they're a robotics company, but we're focusing on software side for them. It's very React heavy and it's a full back-end focus. So we just had this week, they started 2 students. They're doing a 4 week placement, like 4 week intense placement, and then 2 week on additional, bit more relaxed, where it's only 2 days a week. And that's all back end because their preferences were back end. They're enjoying it. Reese, for example, his focus was more actually hybrid across front end and back end. So we've had companies like Entain, they're a gaming systems company. So you'll do a lot of back end, a bit more like maybe some maths even. So it really changes. Depends on what the company is and what your focuses are.
Stephen, what can you like think of a few off the top of your head, a few, you know, companies where we've recently secured placements for some of our students?
Yeah. So in the Gold Coast, we've got HiSmile, we've got services.com.au. So they're like a tradie platform. So if you need to book some tradies, we've helped build out their whole website and their system. We've got Mosaic Play. We've got they're up in Brisbane. We've got in Melbourne Team App. So they build like if you're a sports fan, like you would have used their platform at some point. If you do any sort of fantasy league, they do a lot of the back end for fantasy sports teams and things like that. Here in Sydney, we've got Wiki. They do a lot of like sports tracking data, like crazy amounts of visualization. It's all over. We've got a company in Adelaide Research Sat. So they're doing medical, like crazy, like anti-gravity or low gravity medical research. And so we've worked on a back-end development platform for them. That's like the student involvement. So there's all sorts of ranges of opportunities.
That's so exciting. There's so much going on out there.
And it's all across Australia. That's we've even explored. We did one placement in Paris. So like it's absolutely all over the place these days. You know, you can work remotely if you don't mind the time zone, and you can speak the language. We'll give it a go.
You have opened the door to more questions there, I reckon, Stephen. There'll be people all over the world going, like, Kenya, you know, Uganda, can you do one over here? You know, it'll
Pretty
happen.
much.
You
If there's internet there, we can probably do it.
There you go. Is it possible for students, like when they start their relationship with you guys in the partnerships team, once you sort of develop that rapport and everything, which I know starts really early in the course, is it possible for them to express preferences about like specific companies that they might like to go to for their placement?
So not directly. It is in terms of companies, for us, it is often about, you know, what's available at the time. But I love when people, like when students, you know, at the time, the students, when they're reaching out to us saying, hey, we've seen this company do this really cool thing. Do you guys work with them? And sometimes there'll be no, because there are thousands of companies in Australia that are doing really cool things. And often it's like, oh, you've seen this company. Okay, I'm going to reach out to them now. And we try and build our partner network out like that as well. But often the case, like if you're seeing companies maybe on their job boards, reach out to us. We'd love to help tailor your resume, help tailor your cover letter, your portfolio, so that you've got the best chance. Our role here is to really make sure that we like slingshot you out into the industry. And anyway, we can do that. It's always fun.
Nice. What is our eligibility criteria for students who are interested in taking the placement? So we're always saying it's optional. Yes, you can opt to do it, but once you've said I'm interested, what do we need from our students in order for them to be eligible to take that opportunity?
Yeah, so you'll have your two major assignments that you would have seen, when Lee was talking earlier about the two terms. So we get feedback from educators. So that's why it's important to attend the classes where you can. So the grade though is 70%. So 70% or higher, and then we'll take you on. We've had some in the past where it's a little bit lower, but they've had great feedback from the educators, and so that's where we're sort of still accommodating. It's a soft line, should I say? 70% ends up being a soft line. We'd love to see the initiative. Initiative matters a lot.
We just need a line somewhere, right?
Yeah. So 70% is the soft line. So yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So that's a credit, isn't it? Is it a credit?
Yeah, I believe so. Like a credit throughout distinction, sort of. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Dallas, I'm going to let you answer this one. Because, I feel sorry that you're there and you haven't had any questions, but I think you've got this one. You've got it covered.
I'm living my best life over here.
I know. He's enjoying it so much. Okay. Dallas, during which stage of the course does a student engage in their industry placement?
What? Oh, at the end? It was like a test. It was a test.
Point, Dallas, he got it right.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Yeah. So so industry placement occurs at the end of the boot camp. Funnily enough, a lot of courses out there have industry placement that occurs partway through the course. We don't do that. We have it at the end of the boot camp. So yeah, that's when it's going to happen. But there'll be many touch points with the partnerships team throughout the boot camp as you go. It's not all just going to happen at the very end. But yeah.
And I would just add on to that. That's by design. Just in the example of Reese, where he did his placement with Cognos, and that turned into an employment opportunity. I think that midway placement sometimes hinders your ability to get into the role straight away. Because it's the best chance to. It's essentially treating it as sort of a 4-week trial for both you and a potential employer.
Yeah, I've definitely heard cases as well of students in other institutes who have done placement partway through, and then they've been asked to stay on. They have stayed on, but they've stopped studying. Then they've discovered they hit a wall. They've hit a wall where they don't have the education to continue going as a developer, and then they leave that company. And then they have to figure out what they're going to do next because they stop studying halfway through, and it just becomes a bit of a mess. It just seems like a cleaner process to do it this way.
Yeah, it's much cleaner, isn't it? Yeah, I see what you're saying there. You could run the risk of actually just not getting your qualification or delaying it by a very inconvenient amount of time.
It also doesn't mean that you won't be approached by companies while studying the bootcamp as well. It's not uncommon for employers to sort of reach out. We have partnering companies that will reach out and ask questions. Also, you have to look at I think Steven mentioned it earlier, but there's industry talks that occur, and we get people from partnering companies that come and have a bit of a chat, and those can also be seen as networking events. So those people are happy to, connect through LinkedIn and these sort of things. And you never know, they could stalk you and then think that's the next person we want. So you might end up getting, I guess, asked to come on board before industry placement even comes into play.
I'll add to that because I'm not sure if we actually mentioned it today, but we partner with ACS. So they're the Australian Computer Society. They've got hubs across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. I think they're expanding into many more places as well. So you get to, I think it's quite a few $100. That's part of your membership as well with us. So that activates, I believe, pretty much the month, like 2 months before you finish. That's so you get 12 months extra support from them as well. And we do a lot of our networking events through ACS. I think it was earlier this year, maybe around March, we had Tanda. So it's a big company up in Brisbane. One of our students who had been to their event back in October, when we did our March placement round, they knew of her because she'd come into their Brisbane site and she'd come and join the event. And they actually just placed her straight away. They didn't even bother interviewing her because they're like, well, we've already met her before. We love her energy. She's good. And that was, again, that's sort of showing the engagement. It is so important.
It is. It's so important. It's yeah. I think it sort of breaks a few stereotypes hearing that, like that personality and energy are important. I think a lot of people assume that going into web dev means that they don't need to be necessarily great with people skills, and it's more and more sort of becomes clearer and clearer that is actually very important, especially as we move into working in remote teams with people in different parts of the world potentially as well. It's really important to have those conversational people skills in order to collaborate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's become very apparent these days where like teams are quite nimble, they're quite lean, and you're really close with your manager, you're really close with the supervisor. You get a lot of exposure these days, much better than what it was, I would say, even 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Nice. Could you tell us a bit more, Stephen? So imagining that we're a student moving through the Coder Academy course, like when what can we expect from the partnerships team as far as your involvement? Like what kind of interactions would we be having with you?
Yeah, so I'm saying we do about, I think it's more than one a month, industry talks. We like through them, we've got different people from like recruiters come in, they share advice on how to build your portfolio. They'll share mentoring advice, they'll share how to network. We've got people coming in where they actually showcase their platform so that, we had like people doing sort of like GitHub things, like it's all over the place. Like there's so many different opportunities. Then we've got our actual ACS presentations and invitations and events. And then we've got, what is it? We have our resume workshops. We've got our LinkedIn, how to build your LinkedIn portfolio. Then we jump in and we actually we help write your resume as well. So that's usually right at the end when you have submitted your about me, and we do little tweaks to make sure that it is perfect. Because at the end of the day, you'll be using that same resume to apply for jobs and to go with you. So yeah, there's probably about like 20 touch points throughout the 10 months that you're studying.
Wow. So that's like 2 a week.
There's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of touch points. It's good fun.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's awesome. That's really great. So you'd basically do everything possible to make the students job ready. All good. Yeah, that's so cool. So they feel really confident.
I think it's interesting when you see someone come in, because as well, we provide quite a lot of feedback, quite a lot of opportunities to have one-on-one conversations. Our partnerships manager, Lau, she's based in Brisbane. So if you're Brisbane based, you can usually catch her on campus as well. I'm based here in Sydney. We're currently trying to get someone for Melbourne, but would be happy to jump on a phone call, happy to jump on a call with you guys, and we discuss career and direction and all that sort of thing.
Nice. Could you provide some statistics regarding the employment outcomes of our graduates following the completion of our boot camps, including like average time that it takes them to secure employment?
Yeah, I think we've been sitting at about 80%. From our most recent survey, I think we've been sitting about 80% employment within 3 months. It's a pretty good number. I think the most important part is that experience that you're gaining throughout the time. It's your chance to really build your portfolio. We work not just from your actual resume, like your LinkedIn, but like how you present your information is so important. That's where sort of that GitHub really comes into play there. And so, yeah, I'd say it's quite a strong number. And we've got, I think we're placing pretty much like 90%, 95% of students these days. And students are coming back to us with about 85% sort of, I don't know what the exact number is, but sort of like enjoyment out of their placement. And yeah, it's going really well.
Yeah, so from that, I gather that they are enjoying the placement, but not only enjoying it, they're probably enjoying it because they're competent in what they've been given to do. And then therefore, the company's happy with them. They may be offered further employment from the partner that takes
100%.
them on. That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then there's the other part has been quite funny of like companies have started to understand, okay, this is like the gold standard. Like they know, like a lot of the time when you do your interviews, funny enough, like it ends up being less technical when a placement interview anyway, but less technical, more personal. Because they're like, you studied a coder. We've had so many people come through Coder. We know like they've got people that have there employed for like 5-6 years from Coder Academy. When we were teaching a whole different, like we were teaching Ruby on Rails. We weren't even teaching Python. And they've been able to transition over into new languages. Like we know what you provide. Like as long as like the person's great to work with, we're going to trust what you teach. So it's been that's been quite helpful when you're doing placements because you've got a reputation behind you.
It is
Yeah,
it is really good
sorry,
because no, it's all right. Yeah, it is really good because what you need to understand is that these partnering companies, they don't just choose one institute and then go, we're going to take on people for industry placement from this one institute. These people will take industry placement from all sorts of places all over Australia. And so it might not be the only university or, tertiary education provider that is feeding students to them. But yeah, the feedback that we've received is that the Coder Academy students, they seem to be better prepared to move directly into industry. There's less hand holding and the skills are there. So they prefer to take on coder students over someone from, say, let's just say QUT, if you're in Brisbane, because they don't need to hold their hand as much. It's an easier ride. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, for example, Cognos, one of our best partners, they still take on students from University of Sydney, UTS, UNSW, big universities. But they enjoy working with our students more because they know that personal touch is there. And so we get priority now. And it's amazing just to see how that's come through. And that's the case for a lot of our partners now. That personal touch is worth a lot.
For sure. I have got one final question for you, Steven. And then guys in the live chat, if you've got anything else, we're still 7 minutes out from our end time. So if you've got any burning questions, please feel free to chuck them in the chat. We love to answer them. Steven, what feedback have you received from our industry partners on the kinds of qualities that make successful junior developers in the industry? So we've just moved out into industry. What is going to sort of, pave the way for our success as far as our qualities, maybe our attitude as well?
Yeah, I think the one word that comes up pretty much every single time is initiative. That's the difference maker. It's your ability to be a self-starter. It's your ability to think confidently on your own as well as working within a team. But all that comes back to initiative. And I think that's where, the course does a good job of sort of getting you prepared to be able to have the foundations, because a lot of the time to have the initiative, it comes from confidence. And so, a big part of what we do is making sure that you have the confidence and you've got then the initiative built in, be able to just jump right in. And that's, like I was saying before, a lot of the time we're doing more personal interviews and sort of people and culture versus technical, because they want to see, okay, do they have the confidence to come and talk to share their ideas? Your day-to-day as a developer is there's a lot of team huddles, there's a lot of daily stand-ups. It's basically like, hey, I worked on this yesterday in my coding, this is what I'm going to work on today, this is where, this is why I want to change this button to do this. That's why I want to change the flow to be like this. You've got the confidence to talk about your work. And so that's where we come in and we try and build that for you. But yeah, it's one word, initiative, and the rest kind of solves itself.
Nice. Love it. Okay, that concludes our questions for Steven. You've got 5 minutes on the live chat. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask? If not, we can call it slightly early, and everyone, you can go and eat that sandwich that you've been dying to eat, or maybe you've already finished it. But yeah, like, you know what I mean. Yeah, anything else from you guys?
They've definitely finished that sandwich.
I think they've finished.
I can smell it from here.
It's done.
I think I'll add one more thing of like, it's surprising how vast we've had career changes. Just this round, we've placed someone, he was in Canberra, and he was a music teacher for 13 years, and he's now working on an education platform called Child's Play. We've done he's like the first one to do a placement there, and they're doing like this AI platform where they'll have like a live translation of teaching. So they'll be you able to speak in like German and it'll translate to French. If you're a French-speaking teacher, though, it can translate to English, and he's working on the back end of that. And that's all remote. It's a Macquarie University startup that we've got a partnership with, and so yeah, it's quite interesting to see how vast you can change your career, and where you want to go. Like if you've got ideas to work on anything, there's usually software related to it.
That's such an interesting career change too. So he's come from a musical background, which is another language, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but he loves the education side, and now he's using his education knowledge plus his coding background now to help them on it's a beautiful blend. And that's where I'm someone who's changed careers a lot, and it's all transferable. It all works. It's a very easy path to get involved in. And then there's so many different companies. There's literally thousands, like hundreds of thousands across Australia doing really cool things.
That's so cool. So we can take what you've learned elsewhere and mix it in with what you're going to learn at Coda and produce a completely unique recipe.
100%.
As who are you as a coder? Who are you going to be?
It's quite it's quite funny how many musicians actually come on board at Coda Academy. There's a lot of people that come from music backgrounds that come into it, and it just clicks. Coding just clicks with them. So it's interesting, I guess, to know that it's the same. Yeah, the logic is there. But yeah, thank you so much, Adrian. It's been beautiful.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. We've enjoyed it too.
For joining.
I think we'll probably call it here then, guys. I'm just going to say thank you to Steven and Dallas for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. We'll have you back again, Steven. And yeah, everyone have a great day. And yeah, we hope to chat with you soon. And yeah, if you're kind of pretty happy with what you've heard today about the course, don't hesitate. Jump on and apply, and we will meet you on the phone. All good. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.